Here is one great big beautiful map. I just love this map, and it shows so many things in one map. And looking at it, if you look at the Atlantic Ocean, as we talked about before, what's the role of the major ocean currents? So what happens here is that the arrows that are red are currents that are warmer than you might otherwise expect for their latitude, relatively warm. The currents that are in the blue color are cool, relatively cool for what we might otherwise expect for where they are. And so, looking at that, you can see the famous Gulf Stream going along the east coast of southeast coast, especially of the United States, where, and this is January, by the way, where the Gulf Stream kind of continues on across the North Atlantic, continues on as the North Atlantic Drift. And those warm currents near Europe, as you can imagine, the wind flowing over them, as we mentioned before, makes for a warmer climate, a longer growing season in Europe than we might otherwise expect, especially in the north there, where if you look at that, wow, the Scandinavian countries, right where the words North Atlantic Drift are, if you look just to the right of that word, those words, you see these countries there. Those are roughly the same latitude as much of Alaska. And yet they are somewhat warmer, and that's largely an ocean current driven pattern. The other thing I want to point out to you is our own West Coast. Those are cool currents, aren't they? And that means they're cooler than usual. And we're later going to explore in quite a bit of detail our own West Coast kind of coastal ecosystems. But go down to South America. Where are the unusually cool currents there for their latitude? And wow, if you look at the whole West Coast, the left side of South America, you have this cool current running virtually from the southern extreme of the continent all the way up, amazingly, even to the equator. Okay. And so that's also a zone of very surprisingly cool temperatures. Lima, Peru is very near the equator, way up north there. And it has a climate, here they are practically sea level, equatorial, really 7 degrees south of the equator. And they have a very mild summertime there. So it gets a little muggy, but not bad, not bad at all. Okay, and so there's some big patterns there. I mean, if you look at back into the North Atlantic, there off the eastern United States where the Gulf Stream is, you can see there's basically a circulation. What direction is it, clockwise or counterclockwise? So you can see that it's clockwise. And you also see in the middle of that ocean basin on the other side of North America, our side, the clockwise circulation there. So we're going to get to those topics later. And if you go down the southern hemisphere, you also see very large patterns of kind of swirling currents. Later we'll get to that, but we call those ocean gyres, just to kind of introduce that a little bit right now. And sorry about that little cut there. And also, I wanted to point out that if you look over on the other side of Asia where Japan is, you'll see very warm currents there. They have a similar effect on East Asia. And even in the wintertime, it keeps Japan somewhat warmer than you might expect for a place that far north.